Welcome back to Better Than a Pill. Today, I am so excited to have Mariquita Solis on as a guest. And Mariquita is a vegan empowerment coach. And today, we're going to be talking about the difference between vegan and whole food plant-based. So welcome, Mariquita, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Carrie. I'm excited to be here.
Well, great. So we'll get started here. And I just would like to know a little bit more about your story and why and when you chose to become vegan.
Well, I never thought I would be vegan, that's for sure. I grew up with both of my parents were Mexican, and they're very traditional Mexican, living in a small, tiny community in Michoacan, Mexico, where there was a lot of animals and eating animals. So it wasn't something that I didn't even know what vegetarian or vegan was when I grew up. I think the first time I ever heard about it was in college when I talked to one of my friends, and he said he was vegetarian. I said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "You're going to be sick." I just thought you're going to be so weak and you're going to feel terrible. And I just thought he was crazy. So later, I think it was probably about 3 or 4 years later, my brother came over to me and said, "Hey, I want you to see this video." I guess I don't even know where he got it from. I need to find out. But so it was just a 3-minute video, Meet Your Meat by Alec Baldwin. And I was really horrified and shocked in that 3-minute clip. And there were images I can't get rid of. Very, very disturbing images of what happens to animals in factory farms. And then I became vegetarian. And for years I was vegetarian, and I didn't really make much more connections. I felt like I was doing a lot there and I was doing well. And then I think I saw the documentary, A Peaceable Kingdom, and it talked about dairy. And so I went vegan, and I kind of went back to vegetarian, fell off the wagon just because it was hard for me because, well, it's not always a linear process for people, and it wasn't for me. So I went back to vegetarian, vegan, but now I'm fully vegan and work with We Did It Health community and their whole food plant-based community. But we also engaged the vegan community. I didn't even know what whole food plant-based was until I met the founder, Peter Goldstein, and he taught me about that and welcomed me to be part of their team. So I thought, well, I need to get on board with this whole food plant-based lifestyle. What is it? And oh my gosh, I've really learned so much about clean eating and just eating from the living foods and how much healing we can do. So it's been a beautiful, incredible journey.
That is so good. That's great. Great story. And it's amazing how you made that shift and how it's impacted your life. And, just taking it a step back, what actually is the difference between a vegetarian and what does it mean to be vegan? And, difference between the two.
So vegetarian, they still eat cheese and dairy products. And vegan they don't eat any animal products and really avoid leather, animal clothing, anything with animals in it it's vegan. So really doing as little harm to animals as possible. So yeah, because the dairy industry I didn't realize how cruel it is. And so, but yeah, that's what vegetarian is, still eating dairy. And a lot of vegetarians don't realize that also.
Okay. Yeah. So with being a vegan, what, I guess, can you eat as a vegan?
Well,
what do you eat?
Well, I can eat anything I want, but I choose to eat. Well, as a vegan, there's many, many now new trendy alternatives, plant-based alternatives that like vegan burgers, and there's all sorts of things. It's almost like there's the vegan pizza, vegan cheese, and there are some wonderful cheeses, a lot of processed vegan foods. So whole food plant-based is really the living foods. So we're talking about the grains and the rice and the beans and the when you're going through the produce section, these foods that are alive, right? That don't have look for the foods that don't have an ingredient list, right? So these
Right.
are the whole food plant-based. So that's different from vegan. So some people talk about junk food vegans, and I don't really like that word, but that word, uh, but processed foods, which are not whole foods. Right? I mean, processing it can take on. I mean, everything has to be a little, not everything, but a lot of foods might have a little bit of processing, minimal processing. So there's different levels of processing. So
Right. No, that makes total sense to me because processed foods, as we know in general, they're not good. And so why would it be different for a processed vegan food? Right.
right,
Right.
yes, and my body can feel the difference, right? When I'm eating a lot of processed vegan foods, like my fingers will ache, and when I'm eating very clean, I don't have that, and I feel like that's definitely inflammation. And my body doesn't respond well to that now that I can see a difference in my eating habits, now that I've made a difference in my eating habits. So yeah, but like on the holidays, if I'm eating a lot of processed foods, yeah, I feel it.
Yes, me too. I don't, I try to eliminate that from my diet. I am not a vegan, but I do a lot of what you're describing as the whole food plant-based produce, fresh organic produce is and that's what you're meaning by that term.
Right.
Okay. Yes. And so that I can see as being really powerful. So the whole food plant-based vegan, and that's what you've implemented into your life now. And that's what you mean by clean vegan or clean eating.
Right.
Okay. How, so that shift, so you're eating like, just give us an idea of like a typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well, I love tofu scramble, and I put in a lot of like jalapenos, onions, tomatoes, and so I really try to use a lot of spices in the tofu scramble and eat corn tortillas. That's a whole food plant based breakfast, and then for lunch, wow, it's very interesting. And a lot of times well, since my parents were from Mexico, I ate a lot of corn tortillas, right? So a lot of times I'll just have little potato or bean tacos with, again, I eat a lot of peppers and onions again, but then I also have the grains. Like I've been introduced to quinoa and all these different couscous and all these different grains. I love making little salads like with couscous and then the corn and then all sorts of vegetables. And I've been making, I don't know what, oh, I was making some lemon bars that I saw from YouTube channel, and I can't remember the channel right now, but she was putting potatoes in them. And so I thought this is so weird to make lemon bars with potatoes, but and it was kind of like, I don't know, but it sure did taste good. So I kind of got over that because like we're so taught to not to use certain foods for desserts and everything, and baked potato wouldn't be something I would think about putting in a dessert, but it was great nevertheless, and it was very healthy. So learning to eat all these new different ways of cooking and foods that I've never heard of before, it has been very exciting. I was at a little trucks, one of those little stands, a little food truck. And if I hadn't been vegan, I would never have eaten this beautiful, it was a Vietnamese little, a little bowl, and it was so aromatic. It was fragrant. And I thought, there's no way I ever would have eaten this unless I was vegan. I would have gotten the chicken or the beef, and it would have just been that standard old thing. But this was just full of life. It smelled so alive. And I even tried to figure out how to make it. And and I was sad that it was a food truck because now I'm going to have to chase the food truck all over town instead of going to a restaurant. But yeah, it's opened me up to a lot of new, exciting ways to eat and cook.
That's great. And it sounds like this diet has also impacted your life. You mentioned in terms of lowering the level of inflammation. You don't feel aches, pains, or stiffness. And it sounds like that's primarily with more of the whole food plant based as opposed to just a regular vegan. right?
Definitely, definitely. So I definitely lost weight when I switched to whole food plant-based and my energy levels went up. But I mean, it's still I still can be sucked into this other mindset because I was for so long eating these processed foods, and it's so easy to grab something processed. And so I have to be very careful about setting up my diet in advance and getting things that are easy to grab instead of like little fruit snacks that someone gave me. They said, "Well, here, take these healthy fruit snacks that I don't want." And I was looking at them, and originally I would have thought these are pretty healthy, but now I look at them and I think, why would I eat this fruit snack when I could have a banana or an apple or an orange, right? And then I see advertisements also for like the little mixes that you can put in for vegetables and fruits. And I think, why would you put that in instead of eating the whole fruit? And now I know the difference. I mean, that fiber and how our bodies respond to eating the whole fruit instead of these other processed ways to eat the fruit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. And yes, I struggle with that as well. And I think that, I mean, diet, there's just so many things out there, and diet can impact people in so many individualized ways, whether it's, a paleo diet or low carb or what have you, vegan. Um, so yeah, even myself, like if I have to do a lot of gluten free and actually stay away from grains right now. And so I have to resist from grabbing the gluten free pretzels, although I tend to give myself a little grace with it, right? you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, so you've had success and you can feel it in your body. What other stories can you share about other people having success with the vegan whole food plant based approach?
Gosh, my friend JJ, she lost 50 pounds when she went whole food plant based. She went raw, and her friend partner Dawn, it's really helped her. She was struggling with cancer. And I have so many friends now that have turned their lives around. There was there was a story that Ruben Guzman, I don't think he was going to be a doctor, but he was talking about how as an intern he was cleaning the intestines of all the people that had passed. And these were chronic diseases, people that passed with chronic diseases. I was so lucky that he came to Atlanta over here and talked to us and told us this story in person. And so he came up upon one, and it was immaculate. Like it looked like it was just a newborn baby. And his doctor was saying, make sure you remember this, take a good look. And it turned out to be a lady who was in her 70s, and she had passed. And they went back and asked, what was her lifestyle like? And she was very positive. She was a Seventh-day Adventist, walked 5 miles a day. She never ate meat, whole food, plant-based. And she apparently had a heart defect that would normally you wouldn't live to your 20s. But because she had this lifestyle and this wonderful way of eating and moving, she made it to her 70s. So that's very inspiring to be able to know that we're not destined for heart disease. We're not destined for diabetes. And I'm so sad when I see diabetes commercials on TV. Here's your pill for the rest of your life. And people don't realize that we can turn this around with food. And so many times I've tried to share the information, and people don't believe me. They don't know the power of our food choices. And it's very sad.
Yeah, it is. But to see how powerful nutrition can be, I mean, it is medicine, right? It is a form of medicine for us. And that's a great example. Gaining 50 years on your life there is a good example, you know?
Yeah, that is a great example. And we have, 3 times a day, we have a chance to heal our bodies. And so many of us, we're blocking that, not just blocking the healing, but then we're also hurting our bodies. And it's just the way that we've been brought up to eat. Things shifted, maybe the 50s or whenever the TV dinners started, right? And everything shifted and everything became convenience. And so we lost these opportunities for healing and thriving. And now it's more, we're on a track of a my gosh, the rates of obesity and the rates of heart disease are just off the charts. It's really, really sad. And so it's very important because I work with We Did It.Health also to spread this information to people that we don't have to be prisoners, that there's hope.
Yeah, the work you're doing is very good, very powerful. And as a mindset, coach, empowerment coach, I guess, what role does mindset play in being a vegan? Tell us a little bit more about that part of the work that you do.
So, as a vegan empowerment coach, I come across a lot of vegans that are angry because they want people to hear the message about the suffering of the environment, of animals, and when people don't want to hear that, they feel very depressed, and then they start to develop these limiting beliefs, right? And so they're setting themselves back. They cry and say nobody's going to listen to me. And so I work with my clients on the mindset of being empowered by themselves, not by other people, but to share the message and to be open to whatever response comes. That's fine. We're not dependent on that outcome, like of the person's response to that's not going to decide if I sleep at night. It's not going to, that I'm not dependent on that. I am confident and peaceful, and I'm doing what I believe is in alignment with everything, all my values. And so that's what I work with my clients to get to that point where we're not desperate. We're not begging people, but no, we're speaking with confidence and peace. And it's like a cookie, right? If I offer you a cookie, if you'd like it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too, right? But I've offered you the cookie, so I might come back later in a year and say, would you like a cookie again? But I'm not going to be mad at you for not taking the cookie, right? So we're planting seeds and watering them with love.
Oh, I like how you said that. Yeah, no, that's really nice. And I think that's so true with, life in general is that, God gives us each our individual roles and gifts, and that we go out and we share what we can and we serve those that we're meant to serve. And that's not everybody. There may be a lot of people that don't have the desire to be vegan and may find another avenue, right? But there's probably a lot of people that can benefit from being vegan. And so, yeah, so I agree. It's not about the outcome. I love how you put that, but sharing what you believe to be true. That's great.
Thank you.
So I heard you mention real quick the word raw a little bit earlier when you were talking. And I'm just curious as to what do you mean by raw foods? If you could share a little bit about that and how that relates to being vegan and, on the whole food plant-based program.
Well, I've never done the raw food diet, so I know that the raw food diet is we're talking about the vegetables and fruit in the original form, and they're very healing. And I've heard that. So my brother's his girlfriend's father was like in one of the late stages of cancer, and he went on a raw diet. So you're eating the food in its original form, and he was able to turn that around. It was a macrobiotic raw diet, and he turned that around and lived for many years afterwards. That was it for him. They said it's over. So it's amazing the power of raw foods. And so, this is something that I want to try. And I've seen my friend that I told you lost 50 pounds, that she's really into that. And with her help, I know she wants to help a lot of people too. So we have a lot of friends that are working together. But yeah, I'm going to try it also. And it was kind of intimidating to me. Raw, how am I going to live on that? But there's a lot of things that are made raw. I mean, I've seen plant-based cheesecakes that are raw. And so I need to open up my mind, and I encourage everyone to open up their minds and explore, look it up, and you'll find that there's many things that you wouldn't think would be raw that are raw, that you can eat now that you wouldn't expect.
Right. And so the raw food, it's something that you can do if you're doing the whole food plant-based, vegan approach. It's a part of that, but it's almost like a subcategory, it sounds like.
Right. Yes, it's
Yeah.
separate. It's you can do raw for a while, and there's people that have really healing has really worked a lot for. There was a lady that was talking about her rheumatoid arthritis, and she was able to heal from fruits just only fruits for a certain amount of time. And so when I say this, you have to be very careful about what you're doing, right? We're not just don't go out and do it without making sure that you're getting everything you need, right? But she was able to turn that around. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. Yes. And then reaching out for guidance, of course, because there could be other chronic conditions going on. And, just having, a doctor or a functional medicine doctor alongside can't hurt, but only help the process, right?
Right. Right. And I'm not a doctor. So
yeah.
knows.
No, because I was just thinking aloud too, just in the standpoints of fruits, and if somebody's diabetic, how that could affect their blood sugars or, insulin, and just knowing that they have to be mindful, even if something is fresh or raw or, a whole food, and so on. That just came to my mind as you were sharing that.
Right, definitely. Yes. If you have a condition, then we have to make sure that that everything's set, right? We're not just going to go out and go off our pills and do this. No, everything with caution.
Yeah. I was thinking too, like, so lately I wanted to run this by you. I was getting chlorophyll and putting it in my water on a daily basis. And then the Whole Foods I go to, they stopped selling the chlorophyll. So another naturopathic doctor that I'm working with mentioned, make a homemade version. So I started doing just in the blender spinach or fresh organic spinach or greens. And then I put some parsley in there and water, and have just been blending it up for a minute and drinking that throughout my day. And she said, that's like better than a blood transfusion or pretty similar. It's like hemoglobin for your body. And so I didn't know if you've heard of anything like that, or, I just started doing it.
No, but that sounds wonderful. I can only imagine. I mean, how how life, that's like a source of life to drink that, I'm sure. So yeah, that's amazing. I should try that. Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, no, I just started it not long ago. So yeah, and I just thought I would share that because it seems in alignment with something that would be whole food, plant-based.
Definitely is. Yes. And then I love the colors. I love to see that green.
It's very green. And actually, I like it better than the chlorophyll drops. I mean, it's fresh too. It's live, right?
Right.
So.
Yes. Definitely better.
So, and then the other thing, like when you're cooking foods and say they're not raw, like let's say, for example, you have kale and you cook it in olive oil or you saute it. That is something that would be considered whole food, plant-based on a vegan diet. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. And
Uh,
I've stopped using a lot of oil for cooking. I really don't cook with oil anymore because it's so high calorie. I mean, it's the highest calorie for density. And I really cook a lot with vegetable broth now. And that was another thing that I thought, what do you mean no oil? But I haven't withered away. I'm getting a lot of oils from the avocados or from nuts. And in the flavor of the vegetable broth, it's wonderful, and I don't even miss the oil. It's pretty incredible the way that I was brought up to think, oh well, I have to have this, I have to have this, and then I realized, wait a minute, do I really have to have these things? So it's just different ways of thinking.
yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. The broth, that's an interesting concept. I'll have to try that myself.
Yeah, I cook everything in it, even my little plant-based burgers, my little tofu scrambles. So yeah, everything in the little vegetable broth.
Well, excellent. Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing about everything with the vegan diet and the whole food plant-based process. And this has been really helpful. And I'm sure a lot of people will get value from this today. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. This has been really fun.
And I have included the links for Mariquita's social sites and her website in this episode so you can find out more about the work that she does. And remember, we do new episodes every week on Wednesday, and I look forward to you joining me then.